Hi there, my name's James. I'm the owner of Allied Furnace and AC. We're over in Kenmore, Washington, which is near Seattle, and I'm here today to show you guys how to properly install a ductless mini-split system for residential installation. The reason why I thought it was important to shoot this video is because I was looking on YouTube and I noticed that other people had shown some videos on how to install a ductless mini-split system. Unfortunately, however, I thought that they were making a few mistakes and weren't following the manufacturer's recommendations to properly install it, especially the flare fittings for the refrigeration system. They were not following the manufacturer's recommendations, and my fear was that they were, possibly giving people bad advice, and that this was going to lead to problems down the road for the product. So, the point today is to show you guys how to properly form up a refrigeration flare fitting, in this case for R410A, and how to properly torque it down so that it won't ever leak. So there's a number of unique things about flare fittings for R410A systems. If you look at this flare cone here, this is a flare cone that's specifically for R410A. It actually is, it comes with the product. The manufacturer supplies them with the product. And you'll notice that they're considerably heavier, much, larger than regular flare fittings that you can buy at the hardware store for like 25 cents. They're a lot larger and heavier, and that's because they're designed to handle the extremely high pressures that we see in R410A systems. I believe we're going to be making a fitting here that can handle up to 700 psi. Again, those really light fittings that you buy at the hardware store aren't designed to handle anything near that. The flare itself is just a lot more heavy duty. It's designed to handle the extreme temperature difference and also the high pressure that this system is going to be operating under. So it's extremely important to do it right the first time so that the customer doesn't have any issues. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and run my line set. I've already installed the flare for my 1/4 inch line here. Now we're going to go and form one for the 3/8. Now the first thing you want to do here is take your cutter tool, you get it right where you want it, and go ahead and use your cutter to go ahead and cut it right to the proper length. It's important when you're cutting this not to torque it down too hard or else you'll cave in the tubing. So I just gradually torque it down. Doesn't take much effort to cut it off. On your cutter tool, a good cutter tool for refrigeration actually has a deburring tool on the back. It's very important to use these because you want to go ahead and take this burr that's on the inside here, this sharp edge that's on the inside now, and just cut that out. So that's what I'm going to do here. And I just take my little knife here and kind of just work that out. So that way the tubing is not sharp on the inside. As I do this though, inevitably some little bits of copper tubing little bits of copper are going to get inside there. So I just kind of bend it down a little bit, tap it out, and they just fall out. That looks really good to me. So now we've properly cut it. Big mistake guys make is they'll form their flare without forgetting to put the cone on first. You always put the cone on first. And now I'm ready to go and form my flare. As I was stating earlier, the flare fittings that we make for R410A systems are very unique. They're not the same kind of flares that you see for oil systems or air systems. A lot more heavy duty, and the tool that we use is specifically designed for R410A. It's not designed for those other kind of fittings. And if you use a flaring tool, again those $20 or $30 flaring tools, those cheap ones you get at the hardware store, they will not form a proper flare for R410A systems. The one that I purchased here is made by Yellow Jacket. If you look real closely on the inside here, you'll see the cone that goes inside, it actually is a highly polished cone that oscillates. So it's able to polish and form up a perfect flare fitting that has a mirrored finish on the inside. But it's an oscillating cone. That's one of the unique things about this tool. Another thing that's unique about this tool is there's actually a clutch in the handle, so as I'm forming the flare down, I can't torque it down too hard because the clutch will engage. So it's a very precise tool that won't allow me to over torque it. If I over torque the flare fitting, that could accidentally thin out the copper tubing, and if you thin it out, that creates a possibility for the flare to actually blow off later. So again, this tool is designed to prevent that from happening, so that's why you want to use one like this. It's specifically for R410A. To make your flare, you open up your lockjaw here, get it onto the size that's specifically for the 3/8 size that we're working with. And as I form it on there, I just want to make sure that the tubing just overlaps just a hair, like about a 1/16 of an inch. That it just comes out about a 1/16 of an inch. I've got it locked right where I want it to be. Yeah, right about there. And then what I do is I move my flaring tool up to that segment. And I want to get it right onto the... There's actually a little notch on here that I'm just aiming at, so that way I know it's the flare cone is right above the tubing. So that's locked in place now. I look down, I see that my cone is right above the tubing, and then I just start forming my flare. It's going to get progressively, harder and harder to turn, and you just keep going until the clutch engages, and that's how you know that it's formed up properly. Okay, the clutch just engaged, so now I can back it off. Take it back all the way. Move the flare fitting off, the flare cone off. Open it up. As you look at my flare fitting here, you can see it's a nice uniform shape. The face of this flare fitting is all polished out thanks to that polished cone that's in here. Now what I want to do is I want to just check and make sure that my flare has been, bent out just far enough. I don't want it to be too small or too large. There's this tool here which is actually manufactured by Daikin. You can buy them online. They're just a few dollars. It's just a plastic gauge tool. And it allows you to check your flare to make sure it's not too large and not too small. This is the opening for 3/8. And I just want to see that it just goes right in there and it fits snug inside the tool. And that's how I know that I formed a flare here that's the proper width. So now I feel really good about the flare that I've formed here. So I can go ahead and install it on the king valve here for the ductless unit. So I'll just move my tubing into place and screw it on. As I screw it on, I want to make sure the tubing is lined up with the king valve perfectly. Obviously if it's at an angle like that, it's not going to work right. And I'll get it about hand tight right there. So now I've got it in place. Now this takes us to the very last step, and this is by far the step that I see that people don't actually perform, which is torquing it down properly. This is probably the most common mistake you'll see other installers make when they're installing a ductless mini split system. Most of the other videos that you'll see online, the installer just took a channel lock or a crescent wrench and just torqued it down to wherever they thought was best. That is always the wrong way to do it, and there's never any exceptions to this. If you torque it down too little and it's just a little bit tight, the fitting as it's heating up and cooling down and heating up and cooling down, it can eventually loosen up and then start to leak. If you torque it down too hard, that can cause the nut to eventually just crack and leak. It could also cause the tubing to thin out and then cause the tubing to blow off later. And this might happen 6 months down the road or a year down the road. It might not happen right away, but it will inevitably happen if you don't use the proper torque. So to use the proper torque, you can use a tool like this one. And I like this because it uses these different sizes of open ends for the different flaring cones. It has an adjustable handle here, so I can go ahead and just adjust it to the proper torque. And I look in the manual and it says right in there the proper torque for each size tubing. And so what I've done is I've adjusted it to the proper torque, and all I do is simply install it on the cone, and I'll just slowly take it down until I hear it click. Right there. So now I know for a fact that I've formed a proper flare fitting for this system, and now I know for a fact that my system is going to last as long as it was designed to, because it has been installed now in full accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations. So I hope this information has been helpful to you guys to show you how to properly form up a flare fitting for an R410A ductless mini split system. Ductless mini split systems are really, really great when they're installed properly. They're extremely reliable, and they give you extremely efficient heating and cooling. If you guys would like to have Allied install a system for you, my number is 206-604-0092, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.